I look, I really appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
So I think, just for the audience in terms of, I know there's some people from overseas here. Could you explain, a little bit more about your role, and also in relation to Sime Darby, the journey that you're taking, and then just as a level set, some of the challenges you're facing.
Sure. Well, a bit about Sime Darby for those who might not be very familiar with the company. I think we are more than 100 years old as a company, headquartered in Malaysia. We are now in 19 countries, around 23,000 employees as we speak. And then since 2017, actually, we did the demerger. So now plantation property are not part of Sime Darby, right? And now we focus only on the automotive, industrial, and healthcare. So since last November, I was given this challenge to lead this global IT team and digital team. So in a way, keeping the lights on, the AU, and then also exploring, right? Like context. So I mentioned this morning into the digital transformation space. Yeah. So we have close to 400 IT and digital team all over the world, predominantly in Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, and China. Okay, the key challenges I think is pretty much similar, right? How we can stay relevant, dealing with these uncertainties, being resilient, on top of keeping the lights on. Nothing actually very unique there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great way to kind of segue to what we're seeing as well. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank Sime Darby for continued relationship with Workday, and I really appreciate you being here talking to us today. In the lead up to our conversation in preparation for today, we talked about some of the challenges that we were seeing and facing as we talked to IT leaders. As I was sort of sharing I thought I'd prepare a bit of feedback here. As I was sharing, I kind of thought about the three factors that we're sharing were being shared to us when it came to talking with CIOs and what they're experiencing. And I think it's fair to say, there's still that acceleration gap that Paul talked about in the main stage, and that was the difference between organizations that are really excelling, moving beyond, legacy thought process, legacy cultural decisions, legacy architectures of the past. But there's still a vast majority of organizations, especially in APJ, that had, poor digital experiences. They had rigid architecture that was leading them to some poor decision making. And they felt that, it wasn't really the platform to them to automate beyond, some of the legacy systems that they had. So, at Workday, we kind of came up as a CTO organization with a building block approach to IT. And I'd like to really sort of talk that through with you today. So, for us, it's really a layered approach to this. And I think, as we were talking about it, you also said it's multifaceted. You need to leverage your relationship with the business. The business will also need to understand that IT is there to support. So I just wanted to talk about this framework and what's sort of been successful for you in terms of getting your transformation agenda supported inside.
Well, we are adopting similar formula, which is people, process, and technologies, right? But with maybe the right order of importance, which is the people first. Yeah, because people will make or break in most of the things that we are doing. While the importance of IT as a technology supported in the right process are paramount, but if people is not ready to embrace this kind of change, I think it's going to be a big issue that we are dealing with, right? Hence the decision to move into this human transformation. And one of the things is adopting solutions like Workday has been kind of like key focus since for the last few years. And second one, you mentioned people, of course, the notion about the data. Right? The data is not only about the quantity, but the quality of data. So in our data transformation journey, which is the key component of our digital transformation, we started in the digital data quality first. And then we gradually moved into the data governance, right? Data classification, data security and stuff. And finally, we are moving into data analytics. And this is where the AI and ML, Gen AI are coming in. But I mean, for our journey, without having this a solid data quality supported with the governance, there is no way you can have a good data. So I tend to kind of agree with the layers that you showed over here. But one thing that I would like to add is the importance of people.
Yeah, that's absolutely key. And I think, especially if you've got a multinational organization, you've got people from different cultures and backgrounds, and also, the market's different. And I can't imagine there's more data in the field of HR and finance, but also when you compare to the amount of data you must be processing for automobiles and for the healthcare industry. I want to talk about your data strategy. You touched on a really interesting point, which I think is worthy of discussion, and that's data classification. So for us, when we talk to organizations that are still in that sort of legacy mindset, they're struggling because they don't actually know what can or can't be moved to the cloud. And what their own organization classifies as being cloud ready, they may not. So do you want to talk us about the journey that you went through to data classification?
Yeah, it sounded logical, but more challenging when you wanted to implement, right? Because it's a multifaceted kind of like approach, involve many different parts of the business. And sometimes the ownership, the stewardship are becoming the issue. Who is really data owner will make the final decision, right? In terms of data classification. I think this is where I frequently use this mantra, you need to be able to dream big. You need to sometimes start small first. Okay, once you get a few quick wins, then you can scale very fast afterwards. And then you can get yourself closer to your dream. I think in terms of data transformation, we decided to use a similar approach. Right? So we take a few, maybe a potential low-hanging fruit as a quick win, okay, and start proving the value. Okay, because the moment you gain a few initial wins, and then you typically you will be able to embrace, the business easier. Right? The confidence level will be there. Okay, it's a lot easier for you to kind of like bring people on board because they have seen success. Everyone would like to be a part of the success team, right? But the beginning, how to start, where to start, are typically the challenging part.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think some of the experiences that we've had as we talk to customers, relies on that organization being mature enough to understand the types of personas they've got in the organization. And therefore, what those personas want to do with data and the accessibility of those personas to data. And I was having a funny conversation with a CIO. And I said, so, who's the most important person in your organization? The CEO. He said, no, absolutely not. He said it was the CEO's secretary. and I kid you not, when I was at Standard Chartered Bank, when we were doing the deployments, we actually engaged all of the secretaries for all the executives to be a particular persona. We worked with them because if they had a great experience, they would tell, parts of the organization.
No. Joke aside, I have to agree. The first few weeks after I joined the company, I had lunch after lunch with all the secretaries. Because they are the gatekeepers, right? You could only get to your C-level, including your boss, as through secretaries. So, but you have to do it in the right way, in the most somewhat like honest way.
Yeah.
And I think they have been a great supporters. And many of these IT projects actually tend to be successful with the support of these, people.
Yeah, and I think, from that power user standpoint, actually recognizing the, executive assistants are a different persona. They're power users in the organization. They often act upon, demands from leadership, right? So they've got complete different requirements. So
I don't know about you or those that are in this room, but many of our executives, the email, the applications, even sometimes the mobile phones are being actually monitored, like managed by this EA, right? Yeah. So sometimes when we want to train our C-level, we need to train this EA first, because whenever there is an issue, the EA will be there to assist them.
Yeah.
So it becoming like our level 1 help desk support.
And I think this is, what we're leading towards is more of a digital champions in an organization.
Yeah.
So I think in order to get the entire organization, to move alongside, even for something as may seem simple, like data reclassification or a persona-based approach to deployment and successful delivery, you need to really understand how the organization works. You need to have really strong ties as a IT leader into the business in order to make that effective. So can I ask, do you have a certain amount of personas in your organization that you target IT services to?
Well, yeah, I think differentiating based on personas are there. Of course, we are trying to maybe classify a different level of users, right? But from the system perspective, typically we take this approach of differentiating at this level of systems. Number one is system of records. I mean, the ERPs, right? And becoming like a given thing. Okay, gone are the days in the past where you can be, getting offended by system. It's a must. But then we go to the system of engagement, and that requires a different persona. And this is where the analytics, the dashboarding are. But the most important thing is system of engagement. Okay, and this is where we serve our internal and external customers. And this is where typically we tailor, right? What would be the right interface? And sometimes even the end users could be our own developers. That's why the developer experience also could be as important than the typical user experience, right? And for this multi-channel kind of system of engagement, this is where we are kind of like trying to, because this is the face of what we do in IT. Okay, I mean, behind the scenes, typically people will not get it much, but what they see, what they experience, are most important for them.
Yeah, and I think as you move beyond the personas, and then you start to look at the user journeys and the experiences. You mentioned there, the developer is a user, so they've got a different experience. It's incredibly important for you to map those journeys for the core IT system that you're trying to create. To remove that sort of digital friction that we see here, how important has it been for you in terms of your organization to really work with the business to ideate around those journeys? Because what we've seen in organizations, unfortunately, a lot of organizations they feel a little bit trapped in their journey. In other words, well, we've been doing the same thing for 20 years, so we don't want to change. Well, hold on a minute. Have you thought about doing it this way? Because this way will save you time, money, it'll be more efficient. So how much of that, thinking is cultural, and how much of that, the demand that you've had to change that digital friction? Yeah, talk us a little bit about that journey.
Well, I don't know if it's the right way of saying this, but maybe looking back in the inside, this recent pandemic actually, in a way, could be perceived as coming as with a positive impact, right? Many of digital innovation transformation happened during pandemic, right? We were forced, not only IT, but the users to adapt within the time. Okay, it's showing a level of resiliency for us as a human, right? We never thought that it could take years until we can meet up as of today. But for the last 2 years, many things have happened, right? And I think pandemic is only one of many uncertainties now. Okay, we are talking about geopolitics that we discussed just now. Now we are talking about this Gen AI, benefit and also potential risk, right? And so many other things that I think business needs to start thinking, right? In addition to typical sustainability, business connectivity, now it's this resiliency. Right? It's going to impact our business model. Yeah. I don't know about many of you, but in my company, during this pandemic, we were forced to move into online space within a very short time because nobody could come to our premises to conduct transaction. We not being able to do that, then we were perished. Right? I think this kind of thing becoming a different thing now. It's why the business realize, hey, this is not the end. This is just beginning of this many uncertainty coming to us our way. Yeah. So it's going back to IT reputation in the company, right? If we are perceived to be very business oriented, if the trust of the business is there, yeah, you don't need to kind of like beg to be involved, but they will come and approach. It's becoming a second nature for the business to the moment they heard about digital, right? About transformation. Typically, the first thing would be, hey, bring in people from digital, from IT to have a discussion. They might have something to offer and make the whole solution will be more impactful. Right? So, internal competency, reputation plus external uncertainty. I think this combination would, if we can leverage on top of that, I think that would enable us in our digital transformation journey.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, what was, you reminded me of a conversation that I had at the time with another CIO, and I said to him, what's been, you've just been, promoted. What's the biggest transformation initiative that you've experienced? And, they took a little bit of a step back and they said, COVID. They said they've never had as much money to push into IT and technology as they had when the COVID. Like it or not, huge amount of transformation went on during that time. A lot of experimentation, a lot of organizations investing in things that, that were experiments ultimately at the time. But I think it showed the agility that is possible during this uncertain time.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about cybersecurity, and this is typically the tactic that many CIOs are using, how to get the cybersecurity project in front. It's a fear-based approach. You don't do this, you'll get hacked. This is the potential impact. You see all the long list of other companies and things, right? Typically, that's the case. But then now with this digital transformation, I think we are moving from the risk-based approach to relationship-based. If you don't do this, okay, and then when we are going to deal with this upcoming uncertainty, which is going to come, in one form or another, sooner or later, we will not be ready, right? And to me, digital transformation is no longer a necessity. I think it's an act of survival. You want to survive, you don't want to be deemed obsolete, right? Like a few cases that have, been during. And I think digital transformation is the only way, right? Enabled with the right technology.
Yeah, I think one of the old sayings is the CIO is not chief information officer, it's chief innovation officer now, right?
And carry is over.
And I think, but I think as a result of that, right, tremendous pressure I think has been put on the CIO to be that transformative leader. So when it comes to building personalized journeys, when it comes to adapting new technologies and the hype cycle that AI and ML has gone through now, I guess in the automotive and in the medical field, AI and ML is pretty groundbreaking, some of the things that happen. Could you talk us through some of those use cases, perhaps on the customer side that you're seeing, where the technologies benefit?
Yeah, well, I mean, we are, of course, have adapted, AI, machine learning, right? But I mean, if I may be more specific about the recent wave around this Gen AI and that stuff, right? We have done a few smart POCs, proof of concepts. We recognize the potential benefits, but we also very cognizant in the potential risks around data security and intellectual property. Yeah. So we are taking quite cautious approach. Right, so we are testing a few use cases like a new customer engagement channel, right, and then data scraping on top of typical web scraping that we have got for our used car price. Yeah, we are trying to maybe automate, our field technician reporting. So instead of doing it manually, we ask this Gen AI to propose. So try to shorten that so that we can, enable our field technician to talk to customers more rather than just preparing the report. Yeah? So it's still at the early stage, I have to say. We are still working with a few partners. Yeah, we recognize the benefit of this model, but again, we would have to make sure data security. The data should still reside in our practices, while we are able to leverage the model coming from these, partners.
Yeah, and I think, for us, that's absolutely key. Data, you'd have heard this time and time again at this conference, I'm sure, but data is absolutely critical. For us to have a single secure data model allows us to push machine learning right to the edge where the business users are. But also it's an imperative that we protect that data from a standard standpoint. It's critical that organizations, through their adaptive journey, we talked about extensibility here and sort of, taking a more ecosystem approach to your approach to innovation. Could you maybe talk a little bit about your integration strategy, maybe looking at, the extensibility that you've got and some of the standards that you're looking at when it comes to, say, Workday and the kind of extended ecosystem?
Yeah, of course. We always try to have this open strategy, right? Because we know we can't build everything by ourselves. But of course, security is paramount, number one. Yeah, and then second is, standard. Yeah, we don't want to build a custom, interface unnecessarily. We like to leverage what was this standard. Because being standard, you can have, more partners, more people to support. And of course, finally, it's being seamless. The thing is secure, standard, and seamless. We have, this is part of our business because we are working with our principals. Yeah, the word like Caterpillar, BMW, Porsche, they have a certain needs for data exchange. But we are always trying to do that as a big as a principle.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, I think all that's left for me to do is thank you so much for your participation today, and round of applause for